All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to talk to you all today about translating marketing into revenue impact. Full disclosure, this was a struggle for me in a previous role where I felt like I was consistently communicating marketing wins, but it was never good enough because I couldn't directly say how it impacted revenue growth. And I'm Kimberly Bender. I'm an account strategist here at RED66. It's an honor to be here and talking to you all today. I have a background in campaign planning, marketing strategy, data analysis, and conversion rate optimization, along with many other things that I've experienced along the way. And for those of you who don't know, Red66 is a full service digital marketing agency. We're focused on web optimization, lead gen, SEO, email, content marketing, whatever we need to do to help you win. So let's dive in. Well, I say, before we really dive in, let's talk about the difference between lead gen and what you might consider your general or your brand marketing. And this is to better understand how each impacts revenue. So when we think about lead gen, it's really focused on capturing demand that already exists. This is later in the customer journey. They're already aware and they're ready to take action. So these often appear faster and near term in terms of results. Okay. She's giving me, I have to let people in. There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right. I'm in control of too many technical things, apparently. All right. So going back to lead gen, like I was saying, this is really your faster results. Common examples would be your paid ads, your email offers, free trials, demos, landing pages, and those retargeting campaigns. And you're really measuring success by clicks, form fills, conversions, demo requests, sales, etc. So that's your lead gen side of things. On the other side, we have that brand marketing. And this is really creating awareness and building trust. So this is really about your brand. It's early in the customer journey and it even continues after they convert. So it's focused on that long-term growth. Some examples that support your brand marketing is your social media presence. Think about your educational content like blogs and video. Your community involvement. How are you showing up in space, your culture, your internal culture. So it's this consistent visual identity and messaging and how your brand is showing up. And this is measured by awareness and engagement, things like social engagement or website traffic, time on site, referrals. So when we think about ROI, lead gen is what comes to mind because it's the immediate action that our target audience is taking. But we need to remember that brand marketing is really that foundation for lead gen, and they really work together hand in hand to create that true ROI. Think about your brand marketing as setting the stage for those future conversions. That could be 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road. It really just depends on that buying cycle, but they really work together. So communicating marketing success by leads and engagement is no longer effective. This might sound a little counterintuitive to the last slide. So if lead gen is creating leads and brand is creating engagement, how are they no longer effective? So I'm guessing that some of you have felt that knot in your stomach when you can't answer the question, what is marketing doing in a substantial way? Like, how is it impacting the bottom line? Or when sales dismisses marketing leads as not qualified. So you're working really hard, but you can't quite prove it in a way that matters to that bottom line. Leads and engagement are absolutely essential to tracking marketing performance, evaluating and optimizing. So they're very important. I refer to them more as diagnostic metrics. You might have heard of vanity metrics before. These are not those. They're very useful and they help you improve what you're doing. But we really want to take that a step further and specifically translate it to the bottom line and tie it to revenue. So today we're going to help you do that. We're going to show you how to take it to the next level and speak the same language that sales and key stakeholders actually care about. So that's in dollars and cents. And the best part is that you probably have all of the data you need. You just need to know what to do with it. All right. So let's kind of go through what we'll be covering today. It's We're going to be diving into that disconnect between marketing, sales, and leadership or key stakeholders, because I know some of you are in that leadership role. and have others that you're reporting to, right? And you're also doing that marketing function. Then we're covering how marketing can shift its communication and align everyone so that we're using the same language and we're talking about the same thing. And then lastly, we're going to introduce you to the marketing math calculator. So hopefully some of you have already checked it out. Quick side note there. It's something that we're always testing and tweaking. So we'll want to make sure you have the latest version when we go through that today, because always trying to make things better, right? And we'll be splitting up into a few breakout rooms so we can actually work through the calculator together and address any questions that you have, any questions that come up as we go through it. Recently, I've been to a few conferences and webinars where there wasn't any clear actionable next steps. So we want to make sure this is an experience that you can walk away from and feel like you know what to do and you know how to use the tool that we've given you. All right. So what are we seeing? Let's paint this picture. And it might not be a stretch for some of you, where you're a one-person marketing team or in that leadership role where you're also doing marketing and you're juggling multiple projects or campaigns. And on top of that, you're also getting this flow of quick requests or new ideas that come from the sales team, can come from other leadership. On top of that, you have this overall feeling that leads aren't converting. So let me know if that sounds familiar. I've been there and I feel like it's a really tough place to be. Even if you feel like you can prove that marketing is performing and doing its job, it still feels like what's happening with all of this. So this is common to what we're seeing all the time. Marketing is generating leads, but sales doesn't think they're good enough. You're spending money on ads, content, events, whatever is in your marketing plan, but you can't prove what's working. And then leadership or key stakeholders want that ROI immediately. In fact, they want it yesterday, but you're just trying to keep your head above water and you're balancing a ton of things. So I don't view these challenges as marketing failing. It just means that the system might be a little bit broken. And the problem is that you're all speaking different languages. So marketing is talking about clicks and engagement. Sales is talking about closing qualified leads, and leadership is talking about revenue. So, we're going to teach you how to translate your marketing work into that one metric that everyone understands, and that's converting that lead value into actual dollars. This jumped out to me. So, why is there that marketing and sales disconnect? Studies show that 71% of inbound leads go untouched. Is that shocking to anyone else? And this is coming from Forbes, so it's reputable source, right? That's a lot of leads that marketing's generating that is not getting followed up on, is not being nurtured. So let me share an example with you. We worked with a manufacturing client with a one-person marketing team and a sales team of 4 or 5. And marketing was generating between 30 and 40 leads a month. And they're using a small paid budget, organic social, their website. They have their marketing plan laid out. It all sounds great, right? No, wrong. Sales wasn't consistently following up. So when we dug in a little bit and asked them why, what was going on, they didn't think that the leads were good or worth following up on.
Yeah.
Exactly. They said they get better results from referrals, which makes sense. We'll dive into that a little bit later. So we decided to do the math on it. And we looked at their data and found that their referral close rate was 25%, much higher than what they were getting for those marketing generated leads, which were closing at 2%. So that looking at the average customer lifetime value, which we broke down to be $120,000, each of those marketing leads was actually worth $2,400. So that's $2,400 that sales is leaving on the table. And I'll dig into you how we got to those numbers. And really, what you start to see here is when you're communicating this way by value, sales suddenly begins to pay more attention. Because when we start translating leads into dollars, that means those are dollars that they're leaving on the table if they're not following up with them. So as we go through these 3 core problems, I just want anyone to think about how it applies to you. Feel free to weigh in, raise your hand if you want, speak up. We love to hear and be interactive. So, this first one is that no visibility into performance. Anybody? Or do you think you have visibility? Maybe you've been here. Maybe you're moving from task to task and you have no idea if anything's actually working. Or maybe you do have the data, but you're having a hard time connecting directly to that revenue growth. That second one is that sales and marketing disconnect that we were talking about. So marketing's generating leads, but sales doesn't pick them up. Or worse, they're only following up once. And if the lead doesn't convert immediately, then nothing. So they're kind of missing out on that whole nurturing process, no second touch, no strategy. Anyone sound familiar? Okay. And then that third one is more around that unrealistic expectations where leadership and key stakeholders expect revenue tomorrow. But when you think about it, marketing really takes time. And so without that shared understanding of what success looks like, all the pressure lands on marketing and there's zero support to fix it. So today we're really focused on solving that problem number one around visibility into performance. And once you start to prove marketing's value in dollars, the other two problems become so much easier to solve, right? Sales starts to see the dollars they're leaving on the table. And revenue impact becomes more clear to stakeholders, to key stakeholders, more immediately, right? Instead of down the road. So, understanding lead value. This doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, it can be quite simple. It's how much each lead is worth to your business in actual dollars. Again, not potential or someday dollars, but real calculable revenue. So to calculate it, we just need two numbers. We have the first being that customer lifetime value. How much an average customer spends with you over the entire life of their relationship with you. So for the purpose of usability and simplicity of the tool, we are labeling this deal value. So if you just have $1 amount that you know and that's consistent, feel free to plug that in. But if you know your customer lifetime value, it's even better because it gives you a more accurate view of the actual customer value over the entire life of that customer's relationship. The second one is the close rate. So, what percentage of leads actually become customers? And then that formula is really simple. We have that along the bottom. You're just calculating or multiplying the two together. So, your customer lifetime value times your close rate equals your lead value. That's it. Let's look at a basic example and we'll even dive further into this when we jump into the tool. So, this really basic numbers, right? Let's say you own a subscription service and your average customer pays $1,000 with you over their lifetime. Your close rate, again, that percentage of leads that become customers is 10%. So that 1,000 times 10 means each of your leads is worth $100. So if you're generating 50 leads per month, that's $5,000 in expected monthly revenue. So now you can tell leadership and key stakeholders that your marketing efforts generated $5,000 in pipeline value this month. And that's language that they can understand. And you can start to see like how important it is that you have this data and you can start to communicate it that way. So let's make it a little bit more realistic to, I know some of you on the call more in that B2B space and CSC companies. So let's say your average uniform account is worth $350 per week. And that customer typically stays with you for 3 years. So that equates to $54,600 in lifetime value. And let's say your close rate from marketing generated leads is 1.5%. So when you calculate those together, you can see that each lead is worth $820. So if you're generating 32 leads per month, excuse me, not 30, $26,000 in pipeline value. Even only if 5 of those leads close per year, that's still over $270,000 in revenue directly attributed to marketing. So you can start to see how the numbers add up, and suddenly a $5,000 a month ad spend doesn't seem so crazy. All right. So, in my mind, this changes everything, right? When you start to speak in dollars in revenue and your bottom line, three things start to happen. Your sales start to take you more seriously and stop dismissing your leads as low quality. And instead they start to see them as revenue opportunities. Goes back to that close rate, right? And then leadership and key stakeholders start to see the value because you're giving them a dollar value. And then they start to approve budgets. And instead of asking, why are we spending $5,000 on ads? It becomes, wait, you're generating K in pipeline for K a month. So that 6x return. What happens if we double it? You can stop feeling like you're guessing because you have the data, you have the proof. And so that kind of gives you more of that confidence to walk into rooms and walk into walk into meetings with confidence. All right. So you might be thinking, that sounds great. If it's so powerful and easy, why isn't everyone doing it? Why is it so hard to calculate? Well, for a couple of reasons. The first might be that you don't have the right tools or process. So maybe your leads are in a spreadsheet or a CRM, or your sales data is in another and your financials are somewhere else. So they're not connecting and you're not tracking where leads are coming from or whether they close. So there's a bit of that disconnect. Here's some good news. You don't need an expensive CRM. You just need to be organized and organize the data that you already have. And that's why we've built and put together some free tools for you to use to help you do exactly that. The second roadblock is that sales and marketing don't talk. So sales already knows their close rate and how many leads they need to hit a quota. But if marketing doesn't always have access to that information. For sales is using that close rate based on referrals, which we know are always higher quality, and they're expecting marketing leads to perform the same way. So that disconnect kills alignment. You need shared data and shared definitions of what qualified lead. All right. So let's go back to that referral versus marketing lead. If sales has a 20% close rate on referrals, then they're going to expect marketing leads to have that same 20% close rate. And when they don't, that's when they think the leads are bad or marketing isn't working. But referrals are pre qualified. Everyone knows like word of mouth is the best marketing there is, right? So they come in super warm and that trust is already built. Marketing leads can be coming in very cold and they need nurturing. So it might be that a 2.5 or 2 to 5% close rate on marketing leads might actually be really great. But if no one's adjusting those expectations, then marketing leads are just automatically getting labeled as poor quality. So this is why we need shared definitions and shared data. And once everyone agrees on what's realistic, you can build that strategy around it. Just a quick side note here. Our team uses a tool called a lead scorecard, and that helps bridge the gap between sales and marketing. This is not meant to replace a CRM tool, but it's a way to connect the leads that come in each month and have the sales team say, what's happening with each of these leads? Was it spam? Did we contact them? Were they not qualified? Was it out of the service area? Or are we talking to them? Did they convert? So it allows the marketing team to have a better picture through that tracking of how many leads are coming through and converting. All right. So that was a bit of theory thrown at you. Now we would like to do the hands-on portion. So we're going to actually break out into small groups and work through the marketing math spreadsheet together. So you'll plug in numbers or estimates if you don't have the exact data, and we're going to calculate your lead value in real time. So you'll leave today with a number you can actually use. One thing to keep in mind is that this is going to be probably more of a baseline for many of you. You might not have the exact number, the exact close rate, but we can start to work through the tool together so you know how to use it. And there are also external factors that you need to keep in mind that are outside of marketing's control. Things like tariffs, mergers, seasonality, the economy, right? So there's always things that can impact, but this will be a really great baseline. So we'll give each breakout room about 15 minutes. And again, don't worry if you don't have perfect data. This is about learning the tool and the process. And then we'll come back together. We'll share some insights, answer some questions, and wrap up. So again, me with the technology. Give me just a moment to get those breakout rooms set up. And it's a little bit of a process because I need to get my team into specific rooms so that they can work with you. Elizabeth, who you can see on the call, if you want to wave, a few of you will be in a room with her. And then Rebecca will also be leading a room as well. Thank you for bearing with me for just a moment. All right. Can everyone see the rooms? Okay. All right. Looks like people are slowly coming back from the breakout rooms to the main room. All right. Hopefully everyone got the warning and that wasn't too abrupt for anybody. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Let's dive back in. Okay. So, what did we learn? Let's talk about what you discovered. I want to open up the floor if anyone wants to share anything.
I will.
Awesome. Let's hear what you have to say, Kim.
So I feel like I need a little bit more of a cheat sheet to know what each of those values mean that are being input, because I almost, at least the way we understood it, the two percentages, I would have flipped the order, because you get in a certain amount of leads and you want to pull out your bots, your unqualified, your super cold. And then from there, you would want to then do the percentage of close from what was above that. Am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're correct. So that lead
Okay.
quality would be taking out the bots and the spam. And which leads do you think are qualified to go to sales? And then your close rate is once it's in that sales funnel, like what's your close rate from there?
Right. Right.
Yep.
So I felt like I needed a little bit more definition to know the flow
Okay.
of
That's great.
even the revenue. Like the first time I was playing with the numbers on my own, naively, I was saying to myself, well, we have X number of sales a year, let's say 25 million. That's not the number that should have gone in there.
Right. Okay.
So it's almost like I feel like I need a little cheat sheet to make sure that I'm putting in numbers that actually make sense to what you guys are wanting it to calculate to.
Yes, that's great feedback. And what we can do is we can add another tab that kind of goes through and gives an example. And I think that would probably help a bit, right? Because I know
Yeah.
during our conversation in my breakout room, we were also struggling to get to like the right number and what that looks like. So yeah, we'll definitely add that to the marketing math worksheet.
And then at the end of the meeting, could we get the link or the time frame for a new one to come out?
Yes, we can send out an updated spreadsheet when we either a follow up or recap of this webinar. Yep.
Okay. Because I thought the breakout was awesome to hear how somebody else was thinking things through. They're talking in terms of weeks. I talk more in terms of season or months, just because our lead to close ratio is usually a 3-week time period too. So, there's a lot more gap.
Definitely different ways to think about it and work through it.
It's a really fun process to go through. Just, I would have been lost if all 5 of us weren't on the phone, where we're coaching each other through what each of those line items mean.
Right. Okay.
That's why I'm not a CEO.
All right. So we will definitely update that and share out a new link once we have more of that direction and how to and examples on another tab. Anyone else?
What is the so is the $5,000 ad spend that kind of used in that example? Is that is that like the given amount that like what can you realistically expect to get from that $5,000? Because that's the whole key number. Because that's the total revenue that you gave. Is that capping out that we're going to do two? I think it was 370,000 in revenue, working off at 15 or 20% net, net profit, for a year of spend, 1,000 a month is 60 grand. The net profit's only 50 grand. I don't know. So my question is that 5,000 is the 370, but that example you did with all of us, is that the kind of like the max of what you can get out of your $5,000 ad spend?
So you might be mixing your breakout room with what I was talking about. And what I used in the example for the 5,000 was straight ad spend. So looking at like what dollars you're putting into, say you're paid, right? And then that return would be looking at each month, how many leads are we generating and what are each of those leads worth?
So, but at the end of the day, all the revenue you get from those leads has to produce a profit, and that profit that the value of those leads created has to pay for the cost of those leads. So my question is that 5,000, like what can you? It's really how much revenue can you generate? Now, obviously, the way you operate your business determines on how profitable that each dollar is. But those dollars need to cover the cost that it took to get the revenue in. Otherwise, you're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, and you gotta think about what your ad dollars are. Of course, you wanna be making that back, but if you're investing in your brand and building awareness, those aren't converting at the same rate as your lead gen campaigns and your lead gen ads. So I don't know your specific situation, but there's always different variables to consider. And um, hopefully you are bringing in leads that justify what your ad spend is. And that's again why you want to also be looking at that lifetime value of what is this customer that I'm bringing in through paid really look like? Because it's not that one deal, right? It might be a 5-year relationship. And what does that 5-year relationship really look like in terms of total value?
Yeah, no, no, I understand that. I'm just trying to, we've done some our industry historically hasn't done a lot in marketing. It's a business to business, which is just a different dynamic. And then, it's a very specific, niche of what we cover. So a lot of the times, most of the potential prospects know who we are. They just, it's actually more so like I think the value in the linen industry, uniform linen industry, is constantly having a way, most likely through social media, to be in front of them because you're dealing with contracts and, timing of, when you can, when they're available to actually shop the market and stuff, is to constantly have some sort of presence in front of them so that when they are either due for renewal or they're considering changing, that, you're top of mind. And that's the real value because they can't, a lot of times they just can't change on a whim. They have a service agreement and there's consequences for breaking that agreement. So it's just a different dynamic. And I think that's why traditionally in our industry, larger spends of marketing has not really paid off. In the way we've had a few marketing companies, and we've never really found the right formula to really see, concretely, what's been beneficial.
Gotcha.
At least being honest. I mean, I'm not, I'm not nothing, not, I don't know your company, so I'm just trying to, get a different perspective, but we have not been successful to date. So I'm just trying to figure out, how, if there are any differences or differentiation between your company and others, that how you guys approach things that, can kind of solve that problem.
And it's about the strategy and what levers to pull where and thinking about your audience and what message they need to get at what time. Thinking about it like what do they need to hear right now to make the purchase? And to your point, it might be that they're stuck in a contract that they can't get out, and that's a hurdle or an anxiety or just something to get over. So making sure you're addressing that in your communications and making it less of a hurdle on them and how you're solving that for them. I do want to do a quick time check because I know we only have a couple minutes left. And Frank, I'd love to talk to you about it more. Can we continue the conversation after the webinar and schedule
Sure.
a follow up?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all great feedback. Thank you all so much. We can just jump through these last few slides. So we've calculated the lead value. That's kind of like your step one. But what usually happens next, you go back to your desk, you share this to other key stakeholders or maybe leadership, and they say, "Well, now what do we do?" So it's really just the start. Now's the time to start building your strategy around it. You're setting smart goals. You're aligning sales and marketing so you have that cohesion between the two so they're working together. You're creating a nurturing system, and all of that contributes to proving that ROI over time, which is, that's the harder part. Putting all of these things together. So we pulled together a small list of tools to help you get started on your own. We have that marketing math worksheet. We also have a customer journey map so you can start to outline again what message are you delivering where, and you're making sure you're getting the right information in front of those people. We also have a lead tracker. This is very very basic. It's not meant to replace that CRM, but it is just kind of like a starting point of like a spot to put your leads and collaborate with sales to understand like where they're at. Are these leads converting? Are they in the process? Do we need to follow up with them in 6 months? So you can kind of start to understand that a little bit better. This can also be a spot where some one person teams can get stuck. So you might know what needs to happen, but you don't have the team or the bandwidth to do it. So we've recently created this RED66 strategy workshop. So if you are struggling to find the time or the tools and you can't build that alignment between sales and marketing and leadership, this is kind of where we bring you all together and collaborate with you. So I know we have some clients in attendance today. We're currently doing some of this work with, but there is opportunity with this workshop for new and existing clients to go even deeper. And what we're going deeper into is that alignment between leadership, sales, and marketing around those shared goals. We're defining your ideal customer profile and what actually motivates them to buy. Like understanding them from an empathetic standpoint, we're mapping out that realistic, executable marketing plan. So it's not just a document that sits on the shelf, but a roadmap that you can actually activate. You can do that with your own internal team or a team like RED66. We're also identifying high impact campaigns tailored to your business and then giving you the tools to track, measure, and prove that ROI over time. So by the end, you're not just reacting to requests from sales and new ideas from leadership, you're leading with that strategy and you have that focus and that confidence. So when they do say, hey, I have this great new idea, you can say, okay, but that's a great idea, but we actually have this roadmap and this plan that we want to execute that will help us hit our goals. So if we do this, that will take attention away from our strategy and goals. So next steps, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. I know we're already a minute over. Thank you for hanging in there. If you found it helpful, I just want to invite anyone to reach out to me, Elizabeth or Rebecca, about the workshop. And here's like the biggest takeaway that I want you to take from today. You don't have to keep guessing. You have the data and you have the ability to prove marketing's value. It's just about putting it in the right framework, organizing it, and communicating it. And as we saw with some of you, it's going to take some finessing, right? To get those numbers right, to really understand it and calculate it in a way that makes sense to your business. And then the Red 66 workshop is designed for teams that are small and scrappy, maybe overwhelmed, but we know that everyone here is incredibly capable. So bringing together that leadership, sales, and marketing in one room and getting everyone on the same page makes a huge impact. So you're walking away with clarity, a strategic plan, and the ability to show how marketing is contributing to the overall business goals and success. So again, if you're interested in learning more, feel free to email me, Rebecca or Elizabeth, and we can have a quick call and talk about it. No pressure, just to help you understand what we're offering. All right. So we probably don't have any time left for Q&A. We will be sure to follow up with a recap and feel free to email us back with any questions that you have. And then again, you'll get a copy of this webinar along with the deck and these links to the marketing math spreadsheet, a customer journey map, and that lead tracker. So thank you all for joining us today and we will be in touch. All right. That's it. Thanks, everyone.